Hello, this is Mallory Whitfield, Miss Malaprop, and this is a presentation about how to grow your brand on Instagram for businesses, bloggers, and other badass creatives. That's you, FYI. So who am I? My name is Mallory Whitfield, as I mentioned. My website since 2006 is missmalaprop.com. You can find me on Instagram, miss_malaprop. Everywhere else, it's just Miss Malaprop without the underscore. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was recently named one of Gambit Weekly's 5 local Instagrammers to follow. Thanks to Gambit. Really proud of that mention. So I started on a mission with my own personal Instagram account at the beginning of January 2015 to purposefully, intentionally, strategically grow my own Instagram following. When I started at the beginning of January, I had about 750 followers that had just sort of grown organically throughout having an Instagram account since I first started. You can kind of see it's just kind of mostly flatline, a little bit of organic growth. But as soon as I got really intentional about doing all the things that I'm going to explain to you throughout this presentation, you can see how after that point, it started to grow much more rapidly, and I've since doubled, more than doubled my Instagram following in the last 7 or 8 months or so. So first off, you want to grow your Instagram. What's your goal? Why do you want to grow it? How big do you want to grow it? Do you want to get sales through Instagram? Do you just want to gain brand awareness? You got to have a reason. Why are you on Instagram in the first place? Is it for personal pleasure? Do you just want to share your pictures with friends and family? If that's your reason, stop right now, skip the rest of this presentation, make your account private, go home, class dismissed. If that is not your reason for being on Instagram, if you want to grow your brand, if you want to grow your business, if you're a blogger and you want to get more people to see what you do, whatever your goal is, if your goal is to grow your Instagram account, get really clear on why you're doing this. Get really clear on why you want to grow your following. Get clear on who you want your audience to be. What types of people do you want to follow you? What types of things are those people interested in? What types of things do those people want to see? Because if you want those people following you, you need to post what they want to see and what they want to interact with. Now, go forth and kick ass using the steps I'm about to show you. And a little PS, just say no to private accounts. If the purpose for you being on Instagram is that you want to grow your following, you cannot have a private account. Private account is great if you just want to do friends and family, but if you want people to follow you, if people see that your account is private, they are not going to be inclined to request to follow you, request to get access. They can't even see what you post if your account is set to private. They can't get an idea of who you are other than the brief description in your bio. So just say no to private accounts if your goal is to grow your Instagram account. So first off, we're going to talk about visual branding. Are you making a good first impression? So if somebody wants to decide whether to follow you or not, the first things they're going to see is your profile information, and then they're also going to see the photos that you've recently posted. Let's talk about your profile information first. So your @ username, which as you can see for me, it's miss_malaprop. And the reason I have an underscore in my name is because when Instagram first started, it was for iPhone only. I had an Android at the time. By the time I was able to get on Instagram, someone had already snagged Miss Malaprop. It's very upsetting to me. The problem is, though, once anyone has used a name on Instagram, no one else can use it again. So even if the person who had that name right now wanted to give that to me, they would basically have to give me the password and I would have to start over from scratch with that same account. There's no way to transfer an Instagram account other than through the process I just mentioned. Once you've used an Instagram account name or anyone else has used it, it can never be used again. It's basically off the table forever. It kind of sucks, but that's the way that it is. Instagram is really kind of particular about the way that they envision their platform to be used. So that's just one of the quirks of Instagram. Another thing to pay attention to is your name or tagline, which is this little black line right here. So notice how, so my name is Miss Malaprop. That's kind of my online brand everywhere. My actual full parental given name is Mallory Whitfield, obviously. And then I recently changed my Instagram handle. For a while it was Glamdromeda, which is my stage name as a performance artist. So I have that in there as well in case anyone tries to search for me under my old Instagram account. They should be able to still find this Instagram handle because this line right here is all searchable words if somebody's searching within the Instagram platform. So be sure to include any other variations of your name or really important words that you might think that people would search for you as. Other parts of your profile are your description, which is all this stuff right here. Now there's a bunch of different ways that people have formatted this. Some people like to use emojis. Obviously, I like to use the emojis in the blue, yellow, and pink color scheme that kind of fits with my brand. It fits the colors of my blog, the colors of my logo that I've used over many years. So I use some emojis to break up the text. You also, if you're doing this as a brand and you want people to take some action, you want people to click on that link below, which is the only clickable URL that you have on Instagram, FYI, include a call to action. So for instance, right now I have a free online e-course. It's called the 30-Day SEO Bootcamp. So I include a mention of that and then the call to action right here in my Instagram profile so that people know what to do, what action I want them to take. I want them to click on this link and go check out the information about the free 30-Day SEO Bootcamp e-course. I like to give a little bit of personality. I let them know I'm from New Orleans. I'm really into drag queens, dinosaurs, and David Bowie. That's kind of a really brief description of some of my favorite things. And it kind of, gives people a little bit of an idea of who I am. And as I mentioned, the URL that you have in your profile is the only clickable URL on Instagram. So if you ever try to include www.missmalaprop.com in an Instagram caption, it's not clickable. Somebody can read it, somebody can see that and go to their browser and type in that URL. Somebody could copy and paste it, although if they're using it from their phone, they're probably not going to do that. They're probably just going to have to go to remember to click on it. But the only thing on Instagram where they can actually click directly from Instagram and then have a browser open with that URL is that link in your profile. So it's really important to pick a really, really good one because that's the only link you have. Now, I've had some people ask about how you can track clicks from that link. So what some people do is they'll use a special tracking URL. If you're familiar with Bitly, which is a service where you can basically shorten a link and it allows that link to be tracked, you can use that. You can also use Hootsuite, which is a social media scheduling platform, also has a link shortener that shortens them to Owly. You can use that as well, so at least you can see how many people click through that link from that way. The one thing that I've decided to do that works for me is I created a special page on my website, missmalaprop.com/Eigers only, just for Instagram. And that page is not set to be searchable from Google. I made it no index, no follow on my website, so Google shouldn't be able to just find it, have people find it from like a Google search. It's not linked from any pages of my website. It's only linked from my Instagram account. So if I look in my Google Analytics, for example, and I see that 200 people last month looked at this Eigers only page, those people, in theory, should all be coming directly from my Instagram account. And that page has kind of a rundown of all the most important parts of my business and my blog and who I am. It includes a link to that 30-Day SEO Bootcamp. It includes some recent blog posts that I have and kind of just a synopsis of who I am so people can get an easy idea since I don't have a whole lot of room in this Instagram profile. So that's how I've made it work for me. But just remember to make that URL the best option that you can because it's the only clickable place you have on Instagram. So what kind of first impression are you making? Do you have a cohesive visual brand? So we talked a little bit about making your actual profile information look really great, match who you are, having a great clickable URL that goes to the most important piece of information you want people to see, but also what kind of first impression are you making with your actual photos. So when people are just scrolling through the regular feed, they might see these photos one at a time. But when they go to your profile to decide if they want to follow you or not, they are seeing usually the last 6 to 9 photos, depending on how big your profile, the text information takes up. It might push some of these photos down a little more, but usually they're going to see the first like 6.5 photos, essentially. Like they're going to see half of that bottom row. So you can see on these 3 accounts, Visit New Orleans, which is a New Orleans tourism account. At my day job at FSC Interactive, that's one of the accounts we manage. You can see very clearly it showcases New Orleans and what this city is all about. Freshly Picked is a really great handmade brand. They've been on ABC's Shark Tank. I actually found out about them through Pat Flynn and his Smart Passive Income podcast. You should totally go check out that episode of the Smart Passive Income podcast because it was really great. And she grew a lot of her business through her own Instagram. So I think she's a really great example of how a brand uses Instagram really well. And then Gala Darling is also another great example. You can obviously see there's a lot of pink influences. You can get a really clear idea immediately from popping over to her profile page of what kind of photos you're going to see. So the actual photos themselves. We want to post really beautiful photos because that's the whole point of Instagram. If you're posting ugly photos, nobody's going to want to follow you. It's just the way it is. So the rule of thirds is a really basic but very important rule of photography. What it means is basically any photo is divided into 9 equal sections. It's a grid. Now this photo is obviously not a square, but I'll show you in a second. There's actually some really easy tools, especially if you have an iPhone, also built into Instagram to help you understand the rule of thirds and shoot your photos this way. So basically you want to have the most important focal points of your image hit somewhere either along the lines of the grid or at the intersections of the grid rather than being stuck in the middle of one of the sections or the squares. So you can see the photo on the left with the baby. The baby's face is mostly just in the middle of that square. It's not as interesting of a picture. As the photo on the right, the baby's face is kind of aligned almost at one of the cross sections near the top left-hand side. It's a much more interesting photo. It's just a more interesting way to crop a photo. So for Instagram, one thing that I always do, I have my phone where in the photos, I always just keep it on the square mode. I shoot directly from the photo, from the camera built into my phone. I usually don't shoot directly through Instagram. I'll shoot it in the camera section and then upload it to Instagram later. I leave the grid feature on my camera. If you have an iPhone, you can find it in the photo and camera settings, and you can set it so that that grid always shows up. So that'll really help you understand the rule of thirds as you're shooting and make sure that you're kind of using those grid lines to find the most interesting parts of what you're trying to take a picture of and put it somewhere along the line or the corners of where those lines meet. If you do want to shoot it natively through Instagram, Instagram also has a built-in grid option. So you can use either of those options. Another thing is that natural light is always best. Ask any photographer, they're pretty much going to tell you this. Photography is painting with light. Maybe you've heard that before, but definitely if you can use natural light, it's always going to be best, whether it's inside near a window or whether it's actually outside. Most photographers will swear by, either the very early morning hours or those evening hours. If it's the middle of the day, it's going to be really, really bright outside. The light's going to be like crazy bright. It's going to be hard to shoot because you're going to get really hard shadows. But the more you can just learn about some really simple photography basics and just kind of play around and figure out what feels aesthetically pleasing to you, it's going to make for a better Instagram account. So a little bit about photo editing. Fine-tuning of photos versus those built-in filters that Instagram has. Now, I prefer to do some fine-tuning. I tend not to use those built-in filters because I feel like, I don't know, they kind of make a lot of photos look kind of cheesy or just like over edited, I guess is the way to say it. Obviously, take my advice with a grain of salt because you might have a different style than me, but play around with it and figure out what works best for you. Now, the picture here with the pins, Instagram has its own built-in editor. This is a photo of that built-in editor that they have. You can use a lot of these tools just as you're about to upload the photo to tweak your photo. I've really gotten to like ViscoCam, which is another great photo editing tool. It's a little tricky to figure out how to use everything at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's amazing. It's got a lot of really great options to edit everything, and you can go ahead and save all of those photos back to your photo roll after they're already edited. Afterlight and Snapseed are two other great photo editing apps that you can use. And then some common photo tweaks, you might want to play around with the brightness, the contrast, and the saturation. Those are the three that I'll really pay attention to the most whenever I'm editing my own photos. And I apologize that as this presentation got bigger, the pixels on these images, it's gotten a little pixelated with this, this building over here. But this was the original, this one on the top is the original photo, and this is it just brightened up. I popped up the contrast a little, the saturation. You can just see if somebody was scrolling through an Instagram feed, this one's just a lot darker. I don't think it would be as eye-catching. This one, this second one, is going to catch somebody's eye a lot faster. Another thing to note is that a photo that is a little darker is going to be a lot easier to fix in editing, to fix in post, as photographers and film guys like to say. If a photo is really overexposed, where it's like really, really light, it's going to be harder to make it look good. So just remember, if a photo is dark, you can totally fix that using a good editing program like either Instagram's built-in editor or ViscoCam. But if it's really overexposed and just bright, bright, bright and light colored, it's going to be harder to fix that. Develop your photography style. I really like to play around. I will go on what I call Instagram hunts, aka little photo walks around my neighborhood, around other neighborhoods around New Orleans. When I'm on vacation, even, I like to act like a crazy person. We were in Disneyland earlier this year in April, and I was like photographing flowers and weird angles of stuff that other normal people probably don't take pictures of at Disneyland. But just play with angles, play with how you crop things, and remember that beauty is all around you. Remember that life is art, and take pictures of stuff and make life be art. It'll be awesome, and your Instagram feed will thank you. Fall in love with your audience. Remember, before you post anything, just ask yourself, would I double tap that? Nobody wants to see your boring, weird, dark food pictures or some super pixelated picture. I just take a second before you post it and just ask yourself, would I double tap that? And you know what? You can always, if you've posted something and a week or two later, you're like, oh, that got like 3 likes and all my other photos have like 40. What the heck? You can always go back and delete those photos. Just do yourself a favor, and if it doesn't feel right in your feed, just go back and delete it. It's fine. Storytelling. Instagram as microblogging. So this is one of the things that I really love about Instagram, more so than some other channels. I remember when Twitter first came out, people were like, oh, it's microblogging, but it's really not. It's 140 characters on Twitter. That's not microblogging to me. Blogging is like long form storytelling. That's the way I view blogging, and that's the way I view Instagram too. Stories are how we connect with people. After nourishment, shelter, and companionships, stories are the thing we need most in the world. So these are some examples of some really great storytellers that I've been inspired by. Humans of New York, if you don't follow them already on Instagram and on Facebook, you should totally go check them out. This photo that I captured here is actually from a recent trip to Pakistan. that they did. They go occasionally outside of New York, and they did this really great series in Pakistan where they told the stories of people living in Pakistan, and especially this woman who they call the modern day Harriet Tubman of Pakistan. She basically works to free people in bonded labor in brick kilns in Pakistan. And through telling this story to the audience of Humans of New York, Humans of New York was able to raise over, I think, $2 million in 72 hours to help this woman and her foundation get more people out of bonded labor and effective modern slavery. So that's a way that storytelling via Instagram and social media can actually change the fucking world. It's pretty amazing. Another person who tells amazing stories on Instagram in a different way is my lovely and amazing friend Cindy Spiegel. So she is a business coach, strategist, speaker, all around badass lady. And she does a lot of long form kind of storytelling, inspirational messages on Instagram. You should totally go check out her feed and follow her. And then National Geographic, Nat Geo on Instagram, is one of the first accounts that I was really, really inspired by for the way that they do long form storytelling. I love how, not everybody might read the entire caption. I don't always read the entire caption, but I often will read the captions when I see these kind of photos because they do what National Geographic is known for, and they are such a great storyteller. Now, you don't have to always tell like the longest story. You don't always have to use the full caption, but just think about ways that you can add to the photo with words. A photo might tell a story, but you can add to that story with the actual words of the story. Create an editorial calendar. So if you have a blog, you might be already familiar with this concept. If not, maybe you should get familiar with it. So you can either integrate a blog content calendar or a content calendar you have for some of your other social media channels, or you might want to create an Instagram specific editorial calendar. So one thing I like to do is create kind of weekly content buckets. Now, I don't have content buckets for every single day. I don't always follow these every single week, but there are a few weekly themes that I try to stick to. One of these on my personal account is Women in History Wednesdays. So this was sort of a play on a popular weekly theme that a lot of other people do called Woman Crush Wednesday. It's just, if you search it, there's a ton of people that use it in a ton of different ways. I kind of did my own personal take on this by doing Women in History. I think it's really important to share stories that don't get shared often enough. So every Wednesday, I try to find kind of the more hidden stories of awesome women throughout history, whether that's two cool ladies like Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe, or ladies from the Old West who were badass creative entrepreneurs back then, or people who were royalty but you might not have heard about them. Or I focused on a samurai warrior from feudal Japan a while back. Just kind of trying to tell stories in a way that works for your brand, and by creating a weekly kind of theme for some of the days of the week, it'll just make it easier to generate content. So you're not always like wondering, what am I going to post? I have no idea what I'm going to post. So try to come up with some weekly content buckets for yourself, just to help yourself wrap your head around what you want to post. Formatting your story. So this is why I really feel like Instagram is true microblogging. You have up to 2,200 characters. That's your limit for the length of a caption. Now that's a lot, and I usually don't go anywhere near there, but if you want to, you've got a lot of space to work with. If you want to tell a story, you can tell a story. So tricks for formatting this long form content, because let's get honest, it's hard to write that much natively in Instagram because it kind of only shows you a few lines at a time once you're in the Instagram app. So there's a bunch of different ways to skin a cat, so you have to figure out what works best for you. These are some different ways that I've done it and that other people have done it. One thing that I'll do sometimes is I will compose in the Notes app on my phone, and then I'll copy and paste it in Instagram. You can also compose on your desktop or laptop computer, and then you can email it to yourself. and then copy and paste it into Instagram. Sometimes I'll do this, especially for those women in history ones where I kind of have to do a little research beforehand. A lot of times I'll do it on my desktop or laptop and then send it over to myself via email so I can get it on my phone and then post it. You can also use Evernote, so you can compose anywhere, you can sync with your phone, you can copy and paste. I haven't gotten super into Evernote yet, although I keep hearing great things about it, so I'm going to try. But a lot of my friends really love Evernote. And then sometimes Instagram can be a little finicky about the line breaks. So one thing that I've read and that I've noticed myself is that if you have some sort of punctuation at the end of the line and then you try to create a line break, sometimes the Instagram app doesn't want to keep that line break in. It'll just like turn it back into the same paragraph. So if you really want to have those line breaks, the way we saw in Cindy Spiegel's account, where it's line, and there's a clear separation, and there's another paragraph or line. Sometimes what you can do to make those line breaks stick is to compose your caption in the Facebook app as a status update, and don't post it to Facebook, but after you have it all formatted with the line breaks, you can cut all of that and then paste it into Instagram. And something about that seems to usually work. It's really weird. It's one of those mysterious computer code things that I don't know why it does that, but sometimes that seems to work. You can also use emojis to break up long blocks of text. Sometimes I've done this. I love emojis. Emojis kind of fit with who I am, but if they don't fit with who you are, then don't use emojis. You got to figure out what works best for you. So how do you schedule? So say you want to kind of do a bunch of stuff on a Sunday and plan it out for the week. Instagram's API, so the API is basically the language that their app works with other tools or other apps, like third-party apps and software. So Instagram's API doesn't allow any third-party service to automatically post. That's just a rule that Instagram has decided. Instagram really wants it to be in the moment. They want you to post from your phone. They don't want you to post from a desktop or anything else. It's kind of annoying, but that's just the way that Instagram is. So you can schedule content using either Hootsuite or Latergram. Now Hootsuite you can actually schedule from a desktop. You can schedule for a lot of other apps or other social networks through Hootsuite, such as Twitter and Facebook. Latergram is just for Instagram. I think they have a desktop version of the app. They also have just a phone app, so you can upload everything there. Basically what both of these will do, you can schedule out the text, you can upload the photo, but you'll still have to come back and push it through as a post to Instagram whenever you're ready to post. So you can basically like set a calendar reminder for yourself to go off and say, hey, I need to post that Instagram post, and you can just push it through. So it helps you kind of schedule out everything ahead of time, but you still have to manually push it through. And unless Instagram decides to change their rules, that's just the way it is. Sorry, but it sucks for all of us. It's, you know, nothing against you personally. It's just the way it is for all of us. So any app that says they can automatically push through posts for you, avoid them at all costs. There's been a handful of apps that have basically hacked Instagram's API or software or whatever. I don't totally understand the way all that code works, but they've done it without Instagram's permission. As soon as Instagram finds out, they will shut down the tool. You risk also having your account shut down for using that tool. So if it feels like something that you haven't seen other people doing with Instagram, if it feels like something where it's going to automatically post for you, stay away from it, because you might get your Instagram account shut down, and that would really be awful. So another thing that I've started doing recently for some of my posts is scheduling with DROPBOX. I didn't even think about using DROPBOX until I took a class. Hillary Rushford also has a really, really great, super in-depth Instagram online course, and she mentioned DROPBOX, and I had never even thought about this. So there's a DROPBOX app that you can get on your phone. Obviously, that lets you sync it with a Dropbox account that you can use from any computer, desktop. It's browser-based. So what I've started doing for some of my posts is I'll write a caption as a text file, save that text file with the file name that's dated. So if I want to post it on August 22nd, 2015, I'll save it 08_22_15. So I know that's the date I want to post it. I'll also save the photo with that file name. So I know, okay, this is the caption and this is the photo for this date. Upload it there. The other great thing about saving them with those dated file names is that it'll put it in order based on the file name. So it'll be kind of in the order that you need to post everything. So upload it to Dropbox, and then again, you probably need to set yourself a reminder so you remember to go and post it on that day. So your calendar like goes off and says, hey, go post this. Go into the Dropbox app on your phone, download that text caption, download that photo, and then from there you can pretty quickly upload them to Instagram. So growing your audience, hashtags and other ways that people find you. We all want to grow our audience. That's the whole point of this presentation, right? Here's some ways to do that. Hashtags. Everybody wants to know about hashtags. Let's think about the Goldilocks rule. So if you use hashtags that are super, super, super popular and generic, like Instagood, for example. When I just looked, there was like literally 400,000 something million Instagood hashtags, some insane number, like almost 1 billion hashtags using Instagood. Nobody's going to find you because there's so many people posting with that hashtag over and over and over. As soon as you post it, it's going to get buried. So I would avoid using anything that has just millions of people using that hashtag. Likewise, if the hashtag isn't popular enough, unless it's your own branded hashtag that you're creating, that you're trying to get people to use, or that you're using to collect your own photos with a single branded hashtag, avoid using hashtags that other people rarely use. If you are using the hashtag for the purpose of having people see you, try to stick to things that at least enough people are using, but not too many. So be specific. You want to use hashtags that are actually relevant to your photo. So be really careful and don't post something that has nothing to do with what the photo is. Like, that's going to be annoying. If somebody's looking for stuff that matches a specific hashtag and your photo has nothing to do with it, you're going to look like a crazy spammer. Aim for hashtags that have somewhere between 1,000 to 250,000 photos. This is kind of a super general rule, but you know, if there are at least 1,000 or so other people using that hashtag, it's fairly popular, but it's not super popular. And if there's less than 250,000 people using that hashtag so far, it's not going to be so many people using it all the time that you're going to get buried so fast. So how do you find hashtags? One thing to do is think about popular bloggers and influencers in your niche and what hashtags do they use, and do they have their own branded hashtags that they've created. So for example, Darling Escapes is a travel blog website, and they have a hashtag that's also hashtag Darling Escapes. So if you're posting really beautiful travel photos, that would be a great hashtag to use to get seen by their community. One of the other things is that a lot of times when these brands or bloggers have their own branded hashtags, a lot of times they'll use those to search for other users to regram their photos. So notice how in their profile they say use hashtag Darling Escapes to be featured. If you use that and you have a really good photo and they think it fits their feed, they might regram your photo and credit you, and then you might get some followers that way. A Beautiful Mess is another great blog, and they have a ton of different ABM, A Beautiful Mess hashtags. So for example, ABM Summer, they had everything kind of summer related that fits their niche. People are using this, they'll regram people's photos that use that hashtag. You can also use hashtags like this to connect with the other people in the audience. You can go through there and find similar Instagrammers to follow, to interact with, give them some love once you find them. Another way to find hashtags is Iconosquare. So Iconosquare is a tool that is desktop browser based. You can use it to do a whole bunch of stuff. One of the really useful things that it offers is the ability to search for hashtags and to search by usernames. You can obviously do this internally on Instagram, but sometimes it can be really helpful to see a lot of it all at once. You can also use this to kind of make notes of any popular hashtags that you might want to frequently use. So another thing that Iconosquare offers is you can go and see kind of an overview of your account in a format that's a little differently than on Instagram's native app. So here, if I want to look at my most recent post, I can go here and see, okay, so obviously these pictures of New Orleans houses tend to get a lot of interaction. The purple and orange one got 119 likes, right? Like, that's really good. Obviously, I need to post more bright, colorful New Orleans house photos because people really enjoy those. So it's a really great way to kind of get an overview of how your content is performing and see what people engage with the most. Some more hashtag tips. So there's a limit of 30 hashtags per post. So if you want to go in and post a whole bunch of hashtags to your photo, you can't do more than 30, or it's going to give you a little red exclamation error message sign, and it won't let you post all those hashtags because it thinks you're spamming, and don't be spamming. I always recommend avoiding using any more than just a couple of hashtags in your original caption. What I'll do is I'll do the original caption. I might use 1 or 2 hashtags that are super relevant to that original caption in the photo. And then I'll go back and, as a comment, right after I post my photo, I'll go back and include all the other hashtags I want to add. So I have a note in my phone in the Notes app where I just keep track of all of my favorite Instagram hashtags for different types of photos that I might post. So I kind of have them broken down into different groupings. I'll pick the ones that are the most relevant to that specific picture, and I'll mix it up a lot too. So if I'm posting a picture of a bright, colorful New Orleans house, I'll use some hashtags that are related to New Orleans, but I'll also use some hashtags that are related to colorful things and inspiring things and just pretty things, right? So I will copy and paste about 30 of those as a comment right under my initial caption. Research shows that posts with at least 11 or more hashtags have the highest engagement. So every once in a while I might post something and I don't really include any hashtags with it. I've definitely noticed that for those posts, I don't usually have the same number of likes and comments as for posts that I include a lot of hashtags with. It's crazy. There's some people that are totally anti-hashtags, even in the captions. They don't like to use a lot of them. They think it looks really spammy. Again, figure out what works best for your own brand, your voice, what you personally really respond to when other people post, what you like. Experiment, because not everything works for everybody. This is what works for me. This is what I've seen work for a lot of other people, but it doesn't work for everybody. So you have to figure out what works for you. Regramming. So regramming can be a great way to kind of show love to your community, to other Instagrammers that you really admire and respect, to kind of share cool content that you've seen other people post. When you want to regram something, first make sure that the image and the person's profile fit your brand. So if you see somebody post one image and you think it's awesome, go ahead and check out the other stuff they posted and make sure that like the rest of what they post generally fits with you too. Because if somebody clicks through from your profile to their profile, you don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, this one photo was awesome, but this person is a crazy lunatic, right? Don't do that. When in doubt, always ask before regramming. In my experience, people generally love to have their stuff shared as long as you credit them, as long as you mention that this was their image originally, because that's just the nice, respectful, right thing to do. But some people don't want to be regrammed. Some people, they might be professional photographers for a living. Maybe they don't want people sharing their photos at all without permission. So if you're ever in doubt, always ask them. You can either leave a comment on their photo and ask them. You can send them a direct message and ask them. You can go to their website, see if you can find their email address, actually email them. That's a really great way to do it too. No matter what, you always want to credit the original user that you're regramming. There are 2 ways to do this. I would recommend crediting them in both of these 2 ways. So I would credit in the caption that you're posting, and then also tag the photo as that original poster, because that will show up in the photos of them. So you can make sure that they see it. You can make sure that all of your users see that this is the original person that posted this photo. So in this example, I reposted a photo that featured a skip and whistle tee, but it was actually, this is actually a regram because Skip and Whistle posted this, but Randa Saloon was the blogger who originally posted this that was wearing the t-shirt, so I credited both of them, both in the caption and tagged them in the photo. Other things to note, never edit or crop a regram. You don't want to just change somebody's photo. That's their art, that's their personal expression. Don't alter it. And never add any filters to any regrams. So, repost apps versus native regrams. Some people like repost apps. If you decide that you like it, this is your style, go with it. But some things to note, the repost apps, there's a bunch of different repost apps, but generally they'll add some sort of watermark to the photo that can take away from the look and feel of the image. A lot of times the repost apps will also recycle the original image caption. Now you can usually add a little bit of your own text to this as well, but it'll usually repost their caption as well as the image. And sometimes this can feel a little lazy for one thing. It can look a little lazy. It can make the photo just kind of not look as good. And it can also seem weird if people don't understand that you just reposted that and the whole caption reads as something they said. It just feels a little weird sometimes to me. You figure out what works best for your brand. Again, maybe that really works for you. You can see here Zatarans, which is a local company here in New Orleans. My day job, FSC Interactive, we manage their social media. So they've done it in both ways. They've regrammed in both ways. You can notice how the more recent image is the hand with the crawfish. That one is more recent, so they obviously have more followers, but that photo got more likes too because it looks better, honestly, I think. So a way to repost without a repost app. You can take a screenshot on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you basically just press the white center button and that, like, I think it's the on off button at the same time. It just kind of snaps whatever's on your screen, and then you can pull that in and make it so it's just Instagram's just posting the photo from the Instagram of the other person. You always create your own caption and credit the original post. Like we mentioned before, you want to credit them in the caption and then tag the photo so that they're credited there as well. Other ways to find people, other ways that people find you. So Instagram recently unleashed some new ways that you can discover people. You can discover cool trending hashtags. You can see what's popular. You can go through all of these features and figure out, you know, other stuff that's happening near you, other stuff that you like, see what's popular. This is a really great way to, if you see what's showing up as popular, it's popular for a reason. Kind of observe what things about those popular posts and those popular people that you like that you might be able to emulate and bring in as part of your own brand on Instagram. Community engagement. Listen, engage, and influence, and be effing awesome. Okay, so Maya Angelou quote. This is a freaking amazing quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So how does your Instagram make other people feel? How does your entire brand online and everywhere else make other people feel? If you make people feel good, they're going to want to keep coming back for more. If you make people feel gross or shitty or sad, they're probably not going to stick around for too long. So we want to listen. If you want to engage with people, if you want to grow your audience, you're going to need to seek out new conversations with people that fit that audience. Don't just wait for others to come to you. So you can look for other people in some of the ways we talked about earlier, either through those looking for popular Instagrammers, looking through hashtags of other people in similar niche communities. Seek out people that you want as part of your tribe online and start engaging with them. Have conversations, leave comments, leave actual engaging, thoughtful, non-spammy comments. But leave comments, like their photos, like a lot of their photos at once. Just be really authentic and engage with them. And then also get to know your audience. What are their likes and dislikes? What types of posts do they engage with the most? As we talked about earlier, you can look at Iconosquare and get an idea of the types of posts that you get the most engagement on. But also pay attention to, if you're looking at somebody else who has like a really popular Instagram account, what types of posts do they post that get the most engagement? Because every single post doesn't have the same number of likes and comments. So pay attention to all that stuff. And then how can you incorporate all of that knowledge into your own content strategy? Be really thoughtful, take notes for yourself. I have all sorts of notes in that notes app on my phone all the time. Just be really mindful about it and start to think really strategically about how you use Instagram. So again, listening tools, you can use hashtags. We talked about finding hashtags that other bloggers have created. If you're focused on your local community, pay attention to those local hashtags. No matter what business you're in, whether you actually have a local business or whether you're a blogger trying to reach a larger audience, staying local can be a really easy and effective way to build an audience. Even if you're an online brand, there's a lot to be said for wanting to support people in our local community. I've had an online blog since 2006, and even when I didn't necessarily have a physical location or anything like that locally, reaching out to other local bloggers, reaching out to local media has been a huge way that I've grown my business and my brand. And people here in New Orleans definitely have come to know me. It's weird because sometimes I'll be out and about, and if I introduce myself as my real name, Mallory, people don't know who I am, but as soon as I say Miss Malaprop, they suddenly have some sort of recognition. It's really crazy. But definitely pay attention to your local community. So you can use Iconosquare to find some of these hashtags. You can also just look and see what hashtags other people that you know are local are already using to find some more of these. So some of the local New Orleans ones are NOLA, New Orleans, that LA community, Igers, NOLA. A lot of these are similar no matter where you go. Igers followed by the city or area name is always a good one to check because there's usually some sort of community with that, whether it's Igers NYC or Igers London, or I'm just making these up, but I'm pretty sure they exist. So check those out and find your local community through hashtags. And then another really great way to find more local people, especially if you have a physical business, but again, also if you just want to connect with more of your local community, is to use geotags. That's the little blue section underneath your profile image and your name above the photo. So you don't have to add these off, obviously, but you can add these, and you can look for where other people have added these to places that are near you, whether it's your own business or places in your area that you'd love to visit. You can use those as a way to reach out and find other people that are frequenting the same places that you like to frequent. And then you're going to want to engage with all of those people. So check your mentions and your comments and the other people that are liking your photos. Now, one thing to note is that if you're looking at your recent activity, it's only going to show you a certain amount. That feed only goes so far. So if you start to get really big and suddenly you have tens of thousands of followers, it's going to be really hard to kind of keep up with that. And that's also something that it's important to note if you're trying to engage with people that have tens of thousands of followers. If they're a one-man show, if they're not run by some giant digital marketing agency and have like a team of 5 people monitoring that all the time, they might easily miss it if you only post a comment and do an at mention to them. That's another important reason why earlier when we were talking about regramming, you want to tag people's photos. That's a really great way to make sure that they'll actually see it, because if you tag it, that comes up in a different part of their feed and they'll still see that at some point instead of just the caption. It's great to do both. You'll also want to monitor any of your own campaign hashtags. So if you have a branded hashtag that you create, pay attention to that and check that frequently and see if other people are using it, and go and comment and like their photos and engage with them. Acknowledge each and every comment. Again, if you have like a super, super popular Instagram account, this can be hard because you might miss them, but try to go back through those most recent photos, check your recent activity, really engage with people because they're taking their time out to engage with you. So they want to support you, so show that you like that support, right? Be true to your brand, but try to tailor your tone to who you're talking to. So if somebody leaves a comment and it's all like exclamation points and emojis and clappy hands and it's really excited, like, you can get excited too. It's awesome. But if somebody seems more chill, or maybe the comment is kind of, you know, more deep and thoughtful, and that they took a lot of time, try to mimic that tone, you know, give back what you get. Personalize your comments and try to avoid repeating yourself. So if you have 5 comments on one photo and you're going to respond to every single one of them, try to say something a little bit different to each one that matches what they said in the first place. When you comment on other people's accounts, always be authentic. And obviously, if it feels like spam, it probably is. So really annoying borderline spam comments include stuff like, nice shot, great photo. I mean, obviously, yeah, somebody has a nice shot and a great photo, and like those things can be really important to say, but if that's all you're saying and you've just popped in there from out of nowhere and you've never engaged with them before, I don't know, try to think of something a little bit more original. Try to think of something more specific to that photo so it seems like you actually put some thought into it. And then after you see people engaging with your photos a lot, you'll start to identify community leaders. There's certain people that are always liking every single photo, that always leave a comment. Those people are your most valuable asset. Make sure they know that you value them. You know, you might want to take notice and regram one of those people. Give them a little shout out, send some new followers their way, let your audience know that they exist. Those people are like gold. They love you, give them some love back. And then remember, you can always take the conversation off of Instagram. So you might use Instagram to start a relationship with a brand or a fellow blogger, a fellow influencer. But as I mentioned before, comments can get lost in the mix, especially for accounts that have a lot of followers. The recent activity only shows you so much. It's really easy to miss stuff. So if you want to collaborate with somebody, if you want to double check and make sure you can regram their photo, move the conversation off of Instagram. You can direct message them. The screenshot shows you where to look for that when you're on your home feed. There should be a little inbox sort of icon. You can use that to check your direct messages. And to send a message. You can also reach out via email. A lot of people will include an email address in their profile. You can do that if you want. You can also check whatever their link is to get to their website and see if you can find an email that way. Usually within a few clicks, you can probably dig up an email. An email, in my opinion, is going to always be one of the best ways to reach out directly to somebody, because people check their email and otherwise stuff gets lost. If you want to reach out to me, honestly, email me, because that's the best way to do it. Mallory at missmalaprop.com. Seriously, just email me, because otherwise stuff gets lost. And then finally, position yourself as a truly valuable asset and influential partner. Make people want to work with you, and be kind always. Givers get, y'all. You got questions? Reach out. Like I said, my email is mallory at missmalaprop.com. My website is missmalaprop.com. You can find me on Instagram. You can also check out some of my other free goodies and stuff that I offer. I have, as I mentioned earlier, a free online course. It's a 30-day SEO bootcamp. I call it 30 days because it's meant so that you can walk through it in 30 days, but you'll actually have lifetime access. You can do work at your own pace. You don't have to do it in 30 days. I just kind of structured it that way as a way to kind of wrap your head around it. But it's really cool. Check it out. You can find it on my main website, or you can just head directly to bit.ly/join30dayseo. And then if you want to get your brand in front of my audience, both on Instagram and elsewhere, I also have some sponsorship packages available for indie brands. Take a look, make sure you have a good idea of the kind of stuff that I post, the kind of brands that I usually work with and share on my own blog and other feeds, and kind of make sure that your aesthetics kind of fit mine, because I'm really big on aesthetics. But check it out. Go to www.missmalaprop.com/sponsor. I've got some 3-month, some 6-month ad packages that go along with a gift guide that's going to be awesome for the holidays. You'll get some social media promotion and a gift guide feature. I'm going to pimp your shit out. It'll be awesome. Okay, so that's it. If you've got questions, let me know. I heart you. Bye.